Greetings, Dragon Ball fans, and welcome to part 3 of What If Raditz Recognized Piccolo, where Goku's long-lost space brother had been bored stiff between missions and read some old archive he immediately wished he hadn't. He knew now about the Namekians and their slow but inevitable fate, and well, he could kind of relate. Previously, on a mission to collect his weakling brother, Raditz ran into one of those supposedly doomed green men. He then found his planet-bound brother, but got a solid no to leaving with him, so he kidnapped his hybrid and tailed nephew, and was then headbutted right in the chest by that, well, apparently very dangerously powerful hybrid nephew. And just to add insult to injury, he was promptly abandoned by his boss, Prince Vegeta. When Piccolo repeated the prince's words, the truth of things really sunk in, and Raditz all but gave up. His pod was toast, the Namekian death beam was imminent, and even if he survived that, sooner or later, the immortal Prince Vegeta would find his way here to finish the job. After ceasing hostilities, a crusty old Namekian called Kami appeared on the battleground and whisked Kakarot, Piccolo, the small bald guy, and that hybrid kid away, all after dangling the hope of another ship in Raditz's face. And if both Namekians were gone, so too was his access to their wish orbs. Fortunately, the Bulma woman was very interested in all this nifty tech on display, and being oddly unimpressed by Raditz's power, she invited him along to observe her brilliance in action, fixing his deactivated scouter. When the ominous Mr. Popo showed up at Roshi's Island, Raditz and Bulma were taken to Yanzabit Heights, and Raditz finally got his hand on that oversized piece of space junk that was Kami's old spaceship. Unable to make heads or tails of the controls, however, Raditz was forced to twiddle his thumbs and chew his nails, watching and waiting for Bulma and her father to fix it up, making it spaceworthy again for non-Namekians. Being a couple of billionaire TV geniuses, not only did they fix the ship up, but they also made some improvements. Much like the capsule core building itself, the inside is bigger than the outside. Also, as luck would have it, they are not waiting around for his brother and pals to come back from whatever pointless training they're on. It seems Bulma wants to test out her new toy right away, that warning about Frieza being well heeded. Ignoring the ladder that Bulma directed him to, Raditz floats up to the hatch that by all rights should lead to the roof, only to find an entire upper deck. There's a very comfortable-looking bed in one corner, a column thingy in the middle, and some storage cabinets that, on inspection, are full of small numbered pills. As he's examining one pill after another, the ship shudders slightly, and he feels the gravity increasing. It's not what he's used to, but at least it's better than the meager natural pull of this planet. Apparently, she'd been listening when he had mentioned how horribly low the gravity here was, and somehow that genius brain of hers had done something about it. She might just be the most annoying person he's ever met, but damn if she can't whip up some sweet tech. If nothing else comes of this, maybe he can weasel out of his eventual torture and death by offering her up as a Frieza Force technician. He drops back down through the hatch, and as the G's fall away as well, he sees out the main window that they are no longer in the lab. They are now skimming along just above the planet. Bulma looks up from the controls and smiles, then reaches out and presses a button, and the stars stretch before them as they blow past light speed. She then gets up and moves over to the crates, still on the entry lift. When he doesn't follow, being too busy examining those incomprehensible controls, Bulma huffs loudly and says to come make himself useful. "It's not like I brought you along for your looks, you know. Now put these away in the storage cabinet, will you?" she says, pointing from the crates to a door that really should lead outside of the ship. Man, this compression tech is just creepy. That job done, and before she can find anything else for him to do, Raditz heads back upstairs. There, he is disappointed to find that the gravity is still low, so, risking more menial labor, he shouts down to ask if she had actually fixed the gravity or what, and Bulma comes up to show him the central console. Just show him, mind you. She has no desire to experience it firsthand, thank you very much. Just tap here, and then there to confirm, Bulma says with a smug-looking grin. The max is 20. 20 what? Earth or Vegeta? Raditz asks. Earth, silly. But that's almost nothing. What? No, it's not. Raditz just folds his arms and stares back at her. Well, do whatever you want, but not while I'm in here. You know, do what you Saiyans do. Oh? What do us Saiyans do? You know, training? Under stress? Bulma half asks. Training? Why would I need training? And 20 times Earth's pathetic gravity will hardly be stressful. Bulma just stares at him in disbelief for a moment, then throws up her hands and says, "Well, whatever. You wanted higher gravity, so there it is. Take it or leave it." She then mumbles something about him being ungrateful, but he's much too busy regarding the controls. 20 gravities, huh? The gears starting to turn in his head? That's gotta be at least Planet Vegeta's. Raditz starts sticking the controls up to where it won't go any further, and Bulma bids a hasty retreat. He almost presses the button right away, but glances over to make sure she's gone, and from the ladder they regard each other for a moment before Raditz chokes on what he was about to say. No, it's fine. He needs to keep her happy, for now, so he says it. Thank you. Bulma smiles back, disappearing below, and Raditz presses the button. Oh, wow, that's pretty heavy. He can just about manage to move, so starts walking around slowly before remembering what that woman had said. Training. Under stress? Kakarot and that Piccolo guy had been wearing heavy clothes, hadn't they? And their power levels had changed when they removed them. Curious. Do they wear them all the time? Do they live under that so-called excess stress to push themselves? Well, he had to admit that it seemed to work for them. What to do for training, though? He'd never trained a day after the basics as a child in the mid-tier warrior rank, relying instead on his natural ability to get stronger through battle stress and injury. Could he somehow do that here? Or is the extra gravity doing it for him? Well, he is wearing out pretty quickly under whatever she said it was. While going through more of the usual push-ups, sit-ups, and a bit of juice, or, well, water in this case, from the bathroom sink, the woman's voice comes over a speaker in the ceiling, announcing that it's dinner time. After discovering what all those capsules were for, food, lots and lots of food, Raditz finally asks if that's really the highest the column can go. What? 20's not high enough? Bulma asks. Well, sure, but it's just, you said Kakarot, or, Goku, is it? You said he likes to train under stress. 20 Gs seems plenty stressful to me. Maybe for a puny Earth, for a non-Saiyan, but I just don't feel the difference, you know? Bulma just eyes him and his sweat-soaked hair and still cracked armor for a bit, then shrugs. Maybe I'll take a look, but no promises. That evening, he relaxes in the control chair, staring out at the passing stars, while Bulma digs around in the central pillar on his deck. He'd been quite happy to sit there on the edge of his bed, admiring the view of her working her techno-wizardry, but she'd apparently found it off-putting. Why would she find it distracting? All she was doing was leaning over the control console with her head buried in the guts of the gravity generator. She'd been more than happy to have him watch and admire her tinker with the scouter, and then work on the ship back in her lab, so what gives? Well, anyway, she had told him to shoo, and, oh God, please, have a shower. And then, as a reward, and on condition that he not touch anything but the chair, he could sit in the pilot seat for a bit. Not touch anything? It's not like he can read any of those damn controls anyway. He wakes up with a start to find her staring down at him, all grease-stained, scuffed, and now quite sweaty too. It's fixed. Now off with you. I need to have a shower after that, she says, jabbing a finger at the hatchway as she walks off into the shower room. Oh God, take your stinking armor up there with you, she cries out as she kicks the padded suit out of the door and slams it shut. The generator is back together, and there's a piece of what the humans call paper, with something scribbled on it and somehow stuck to the console. Let's see. The first two symbols are the last two of her name, aren't they? Yes, he'd seen that self-promotion on her favored clothing. But what does that crossed-out symbol mean? And the small line in a squiggle? Oh, the last thing is a number, isn't it? Oh, what was the previous number? 20. What did 20 look like again? Oh well, 3 symbols can't be that big. His power level is 5 symbols in their language after all, so line, circle, circle it is. No sooner has he pressed the confirmation button than the world around him crumbles, and his face promptly slams into the deck. He makes it about halfway through thinking, oh crap, before consciousness abandons him. He crawls back to that long-abandoned consciousness, and after spending even more time figuring out what his name is, then wondering why the side of his face is all wet, he finally realizes that he is quite firmly bolted to the floor. He tries to call out, but he can't catch his breath. There has to be somebody else here. Maybe a Frieza Force tech? But why is Frieza torturing him, though? Had he finally let slip what he was thinking all those times? No, that's not right. The woman. There's a woman, isn't there? Why can't he call out? Why can't he move? Oh, the gravity? It's right there in front of him somewhere, but he just can't move a muscle. Woman, he whispers and tries to take a deep enough breath to call out. Why is it so hard to breathe? He thinks as his vision fades, consciousness running and hiding from him again. When he finally finds its hidey hole, he opens his eyes and, thinking for some reason that breathing will be very, very hard, he gasps down lungfuls of air, too much air, so the gasping and now coughing carry on for a while. Eventually he settles down and looks up at the partially dressed woman leaning over him. Before he can say anything, she yells at him, "What were you thinking, you complete idiot?" He says, trying to remember what he was thinking. Something about air and a Frieza Force technician? I thought you were dead, Bulma says, her eyes watering just a bit. You idiot. So, Raditz says, looking around the deck and working his aching jaw, I have no idea what happened. I went up there when you had a shower, and then there was a Frieza Force technician torturing me for some reason, and then I woke up here. Frieza Force? No, you idiot. You went up there to try the adjustments I made on the gravity generator. The gravity generator? Oh, the thing with the paper stuck to it, he says, finally connecting some of the severely blood-deprived dots. Yeah, the piece of paper that said the max setting, she says, staring at him angrily. And you thought you'd just set it to that max right away. You're not an idiot. You're insane. Bulma, Raditz says, as he connects more of what she's saying with stray fragments of memory he can pull together. I can't actually read your language. After Bulma finishes her proper belly-hugging, deck-rolling laughter, she wipes away a few more tears and looks at him for a moment. She then stands up, walks off, and digs through a drawer of capsules. Raditz is still very uncomfortable with the Hoi-Poi capsule's ability to hide such large objects inside, but after seeing the banquet that came out of the first one she'd opened, he manages to restrain himself from recoiling at the poof. This one is apparently a box, with a random assortment of things inside. While Bulma digs through this new container, Raditz wonders just what it would be like to be in that box when it, shrinks, or whatever it does to stuff. The tablet she pulls out seems fine, though, as did the steaks and other food from last night's dinner. The thought of food triggers something, and the entire deck vibrates with the rumble from his stomach. Oh, of course you're hungry, Bulma says, grabbing at another capsule. It's only been 4 days. What? You were up there for 4 days, Bulma says. Look at your hair. It's flat as a pancake. Huh? What's a pancake? Raditz says, looking back at his very squashed hair. Bulma pauses for a moment, then puts the current capsule back and switches to what she'd called the breakfast drawer, and pulls out another capsule. These are pancakes, she says, as the capsule opens and a crate of pre-made pancakes appear. As they tuck into their rather delicious and sweet-tasting pancake things, Bulma swipes around on the tablet she'd retrieved and then passes it to him. The screen is covered in more symbols that he doesn't understand, but when she taps one and then another, the sounds start to make sense. The weeks are spent in a routine of tablet swiping and tapping at mealtime, and Raditz slowly working his way back up through the gravity numbers on his upper deck. Honestly, the mealtimes are almost more enjoyable, even though he's now up in the, 40s, was it? Yes, that's a 4 and a 2, which is 42. And 42 times Earth gravity, he's worked out, is just over 4 times the gravity back on planet Vegeta. By the end of the 3rd week in space, he can almost read complete sentences, and he is finally looking down at the panel, easily reading 100. Still very tough to move in, but hey, he isn't drooling on the deck plates again, so there's that at least. That Bulma woman would actually make quite a good teacher, even by Saiyan standards. Apparently, she's treating it like any technical problem she usually has, and has approached teaching him this English thing as a challenge. She's always up for a challenge, and Raditz can relate, as long as it doesn't kill him, or make him drool on the deck plating. One thing he's really enjoyed was the book she'd pulled out after he read his second full sentence. This book was nice, though, as it was mostly pictures, and he was pretty sure it was talking about body movements. When he'd asked, she said it was one of Roshi's books she'd picked up while killing time at the geezer's house. A book, not a magazine. She'd been very specific about that, don't touch that guy's magazines. After poring over it for a few days, he'd started trying out the body motions drawn on the pages, while straining under whatever gravity he'd achieved, and he had to admit, the effects were noticeable. They had to be fighting moves, he was sure of it. Kind of like what his weakling brother and that Namekian had tried to use against him back on Earth. Of course, they'd been way too slow to actually land a blow, but combining these movesets with his relatively high speed might just give him the edge. With Namek looming into view, Bulma declares the gravity generator off limits and locks it back at a max of 10. Lacking any senzu, whatever those are, they need to be ready for whatever they find on Namek, and besides, having his stink register as a weapon will not ingratiate them with the natives. And as they descend through the thick clouds to the oddly Earth-like surface, we will bring Part 3 to a close. Having slowly acclimated to 100 Gs on the trip here, Raditz has hopefully closed the gap somewhat, but will it be enough to face down against the likes of Frieza? And what will become of Vegeta and Nappa? They are still months away. How far along do you think Frieza is in his murderous trek across Namek itself? Will Bulma and Raditz be able to head them off at the pass, or will they fall victim to the intergalactic tyrant? Find out next time on Dragon Ball. What if Raditz recognized Piccolo?